This is Maui Community College, with a world of knowledge here at home.
Welcome to the center of the meltdown of the economic empire of the West. Kahalui Maui, we're back to you once again with all the fun, joy, and the same students who just can't seem to get through my class. They come back every semester. And welcome once again. And we're going to talk about making you a millionaire. It's all about the money. Forget Bernard Madoff. Forget the 50 billion. We got it right here, and it's all available for grants for students in this class who come up with the perfect business idea. And I hope it's you. I hope you're going to make the big bucks, and hopefully we'll help you make it. Now, you know that you learn a lot of useless stuff also in this class aside from what's in the syllabus. Welcome, Thomas. What we learn about is also some language and culture. And one of the first words I'm going to teach you is in the old language of the Jews of Eastern Europe, in Yiddish. And the word is chutzpah. And if you have eaten lox and bagels in New York, you know what chutzpah is, or if you lived in Chicago, LA, or even passed through Miami Beach. And that means gall. That means cheekiness. That means they dare to be, they dare to say. And we're going to teach you when everybody tells you that something is impossible. I'm going to teach you that it is not. Don't listen to the naysayers. When they say you're not going to be a millionaire, laugh in their face. Don't say a word. Just laugh in their face with that knowing look. I'll show you. Check me out on the Financial Times front page, Wall Street Journal, The Economist of Business Week. You'll see my picture there. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 5 years, maybe in 10 years. When I'm sitting aboard my executive jet. I'm sorry, forget the executive jet. You know what that did? The General Motors people, the executive. Forget the executive. So you'll be having your golf cart. All electric Cadillac, electric Rolls Royce. Wow. Can you imagine an electric Ferrari? Maybe one of you will be the only one designing one or driving. Or marrying someone who did. Okay. Now, some of the rules in the class. One, you've got to press that little black magic box and you want to answer my question. Rule number 2. You are not required to come physically to class. You can transport yourself. What is that called? For that time when time and place in the sky track? Not transportation. What is that called? Transport? Yeah. What? Teleport. Teleport. You can teleport yourself here. But as I told some of the students before the beginning of the class, if at all possible, I encourage you to come. Because I did an in-depth analytic study of the statistics of the students who attend physically and their grades for the general student class in the last class that we had last semester in marketing. And there was a definite variance in terms of grade. Those who appeared had a much better chance of a small decimal fraction of a higher grade. Now, it's not that I discriminate. It's just that you were able to communicate with me on a subliminal level that even if you may have not been perfect on the test, I understood what you were trying to say, even though your parents may never have. But I did from that brief contact of 16 weeks. So I encourage you to come, because it's a chance also for you to ask questions and be here. As I said at the beginning of my discussion in this class, we're going to have a complex class because I'm going to ask you to do a lot of things. Now, first of all, the most important thing that all of you want to know, what do I have to do? What's the grunt work? What do you expect me? Well, it's pretty much laid up in the syllabus, and I think by now everybody's gotten a copy. I said it only 38 times and put it on the La Lima site, which ate it up last night. But I hope it'll be posted back today. But there'll be a quiz pretty often. Now the quiz is designed only for one thing. The quiz is online, it's open book. It's usually limited anywhere between 1 hour to 2 hours. My usual habit is to do, if it's a 1 week quiz, I do 25 to 30 questions. If it's a 2-chapter quiz for over a 2-week period, that's exactly double, about 50 to 60 questions. They're all short answers, basically objective, multiple choice, true and false. The only purpose of that quiz is to make sure that you read the textbook. Now I know there was some proud student who recently told me, well recently about 4 years ago, that he hadn't read anything since 10th grade. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to start. You know, get your reading skills up, because even on the internet, even with all the icons and the right click and left clicks on the mouse, it's not enough. You can't use your BlackBerry. Someone sent me one of the students sent me a message on the email using text talk. Well, I'm not really good at it, so it took me about an hour to decipher that she wanted me to give her a capacity override for my class. You know, but you don't want to be in that position where I just say, oh. So write to me in English so that I can understand. It's one of the languages that I do speak on a decent level. Okay. So, quizzes, we're all clear about that. You read the book. I suggest, even stronger, I strongly suggest that you read the text before you attempt the quiz. The quiz is usually open from Friday evening or Friday afternoon all the way to Sunday night, so you can take it whenever you want. Don't try to do it with friends, because everybody has a different quiz. The beauty of this testing mechanism is that the numbers are switched around. Sometimes the questions are the same value, or asking the same thing in different ways. So trying to do it together, it just makes it more cumbersome. And again, I've done a little study on that previously, and that lowers your grade when you try to work it with other people. Because I've had actually siblings work the deal together, and they got all screwed up. One did much better than they came. They couldn't really complain, because they couldn't say, well, you know, how come, you know, my sibling did better? Well, I don't know. Why don't you think they could do better than me? In any case, I don't want to get too deeply into this. You do the quiz, read the book ahead of time, because you don't have the physical time. If I give you a 2-hour time frame to do the quiz, it's evaluated about 1.5 minutes to kind of get your thinking going on that question and be able to answer it. And sometimes you want to ascertain it from the book. That's fine. I assume that you're going to do that, as in real life. The reason I give open book tests, because real life is open book. If you have a question when you're at a job, or you're in graduate school, or doing anything, or answering your children's question about something, you can open a book, you can go to the internet, you can ask someone. I have no problem with you asking people. I have no problem with you asking people about your project as you do them. Because that's the way we work. We try to work collaboratively. There are very few real stars. I think some of them left when Einstein died. You know, but the real stars, everybody else has to work collaboratively and get information from wherever they can. So that's about open book, what's on the exam, how you do them, and what I expect from your reading practices. Now we're going to be doing also discussion board. That's another requirement. Every week or every 2 weeks, I will post a question on the discussion board on our reading. Okay? I want you to participate. Don't wait till the last day to see, oh, let's see what everybody else did, and I'm going to say I agree. No. The whole idea of a discussion board, especially when we're on TV, and a lot of you are not here, or on cable, or online, I'd like you to get to know each other. So when you meet another class, you already know. As I recognize some of the students from my online classes previously, or people who were in the cable class but couldn't come for one reason or another. So get in a discussion board. Get to know how you can use other people for their strength. Why do I say get on the discussion board? This week, what I want you to do is get to know your fellow students, because I've asked every one of you to put a description about yourself. What your dreams are, what your skills are, where you've been, what you do. Everyone at the setting of the undergraduate upper division program, baccalaureate program, comes with different baggage, different background, culturally, ethnic, demographically, geographically, financial, and so on. So everybody has different strengths and different experiences. Everybody practices different sports or hobbies or joys. Or some people are parents. Some people are grandparents. Some people are children. Some people are grandchildren. All playing different roles. In those different roles, you have a different perspective. Why is this important? It's because I would like you to form teams with one other person in a class. It's very important to form a team because you're going to be working in a team on a business plan. And I felt that instead of giving you individual business plan to do, as we often do in graduate school, I believe that if you work in a team concept, now all of you should have had the prerequisites of marketing and management. I've given some of you waivers on that. But it's very important that you recognize that in building the business plan, probably 70% of the weight of the business plan is the marketing portion. Very, very critical to understand. In fact, today, when we look at chief executives of some of the major corporations in America and small companies, there is no such thing as being a CEO without having had marketing experience. Because it's no longer just about, can I manage people? No, even if you hire the best marketing vice president, if you don't know what he's supposed to do, you don't know what your expectations are of him, or you don't know what is achievable, or you want to make sure that the marketing plan is going to work, you better have an understanding of marketing. So that's why pick a good person and fit to be your team member, and then let me know by next week. Now I'm going to be very strict on the timetable because we have only 15 weeks to get through the course and also produce a credible business plan. One of the objectives of this course is for you to have the skills to produce a business plan. So actually, we used to do the course, to have a separate business plan course. This is too much of a luxury in an undergraduate course where you must get so much information, so many skills in your hands. So I want you to, now, people say, oh, a business plan. Yes, all business plan. And every week we're going into a different portion of the business plan. And although this is not a course about business plan, it's about entrepreneurship and how to get the business going. So I can't spend a lot of time in the format. Therefore, if you look at the syllabus, it says recommended DVD. Okay? And it says there's only one required course, text, and that's Entrepreneurship 7th edition. Robert Hisrich, Michael Peters. It's Entrepreneurship 7th edition, published 2008 by McGraw-Hill. Okay, the author is Hisrich, Hisrich. Now, the DVD, I've often used New Business Mentor. It's published by, issued by the Kaufman Foundation, Kauffman, or Business Plan Writer, or Business Plan Pro by Palo Alto Software. Any of those is good. You're not required. The reason I don't make it required because there's a cost. I think the cost is about $39 if you want to get an academic version of it. But if you are a team member and each one of you spends $15 on it, it's a really worthwhile investment. Now, why is this good to have the DVD template? Just makes it easier. As you formulate your business plan, you have it on your computer. In each section, as you complete, you put it, but you can also edit it all the time. And it gives you suggestions, gives you resources and samples. I'm going to load up sometime this week also samples of business plans and also instructions on business plans that I have in PDF form. So you can have all that. So as I said, you don't need the software. It makes life easier. So we're on the business plan part. Now, other requirements that I haven't mentioned. I want each one of you to keep an idea book. Okay. The idea book is every day. I want you to, it can be just a simple little notebook. Make sure it's not the kind that you can rip the pages out. It's not. Just a little notebook with and every day write an idea that you've thought about. That's why I want you to spend some time during the day. It can be any time. It can be while you're getting ready for school. It can be while you're having breakfast. It can be before you go to sleep. It can be done while you're sleeping and wake up with nightmares. Just write out an idea that you had for the day. Okay, so this will be your idea book. It's very important. I want you to think about ideas that you've either had previously, ideas from the environment that you get, ideas that you get from fellow students talking to them, ideas that you've heard in the classroom. What are the ideas focuses? Ideas that are going to change things. Ideas that you feel that you can make a difference. Yeah. So, I want you to think about ideas that are going to either involve a product or a service. Because this is about entrepreneurship. We'll soon talk about what it means to have entrepreneurship. It's not a simple concept, but it's very different than many people think. First of all, we will discuss today's class, we will discuss about the fact that being an entrepreneur and inventor is two different things. You can be an inventor without being an entrepreneur. We have many people who invent things, and their products or inventions have never seen the light of day. So it's not the same. You're going to be working on a project, and again, within the next week, I need one of the ideas. So keep a list of the ideas. You will give me your product or service, but you will have 1 week after that, because I will give you feedback on each team. And I think there are about 20 people in the class. To each team, I will give back my feedback on it. Suggest other things. Then you have 1 week to revise and resubmit. And then whatever you resubmit the second week, that's the word from above. That's it. Finito la commedia. Okay? That's it. You don't go further than that. Now, where do those ideas? There you have broad fields. I'm not going to dictate to you, but there are 3 areas that you can work in. One of the areas is, if you've seen the syllabus, products and services for baby boomers. Actually, there are 4 areas I didn't mention before. Okay, products and services for the baby boomers. Now, who are the baby boomers? Can anybody tell me who the baby boomers are? Anybody? Go ahead, Melissa. When were they born?
During
70s?
No. After World War II.
Right after World War II, right? 1945 is usually a good cutoff date. 45 to about, 65. No, I think probably I would say the baby boom is no more than 1955, pretty much it. Those who are anywhere between 55 and 65 today, or maybe even 52 and 55. So. Okay, so the baby boom. So think of products and services. Why is that important? Yes.
Because they're a large large segment of the population that have financial stability and disposable income.
Well, they did until Bernard Madoff helped them with making it thin out, because all those heavy bags of cash were too heavy for them to carry. He was worried about scoliosis and various back problems and carrying a lot of money with your shoulders, you know. So, yeah, right. The baby boomers made a lot of money. They were at the height of the high-tech bubble, at the height of the low-prime mortgage bubble, maybe at the end of that boom. They made a lot of money. Yeah, I don't want to. You have too many audiences. Diverse. I don't want to. I worry about contract hits and all this, so I don't want to talk about groups that have licenses. Anyway, but the point being is that the baby boomers did influence the world, and especially America, in terms of their spending habits, in terms of their building businesses, in terms of their taking advantage of opportunities. And they amassed a lot of the wealth that we have recently seen dissipate in the American economy. So they're also the largest part of the demographic pyramid. We have an inverse pyramid, the demographic pyramid in America, not enough babies being born. Anybody know how many babies you got to have in Western society to replace the existing population? At least 2.1 to 2.37, somewhere there. and I think we're having less than that. That's why our population is slowly declining. Europe is even worse shape. Their workforce is diminishing, and wonders of all wonders, the country that everybody was worried about, China, is also diminishing. Why? Why is China's population diminishing? Anybody know? I thought they had 1.414 billion people. What's the problem? Isn't there another seat left at the table for some soup?
They have a limit on how many babies each couple can
Yeah,
have.
one. Uno. That's it. Yes, one baby. Well, one baby isn't enough to replace the population. So we'll see their population shrinking as well. What does that mean? It means that when we have a market for economic goods in our capitalist economy, a market economy survives and selling people new products all the time, like Hummers. I won't mention that now. Okay, and all kinds of medications that we didn't know we needed, and suddenly we found out that we are so sick that we need at least 38 medications on standby, big capsules, small capsules, white ones, liquid. And God, we're really getting sick like dogs. I'm surprised I'm even able to stand up today. But the point is that we create new products to service the needs of society or to meet the wants of society. And so you need to have a population that's going to be able to purchase that. And the biggest group, as I mentioned, are the baby boomers. So we need to find products that they're going to buy, since until Bernard Nader helped them with their investment policy, they pretty much knew how to make money in their retirement through investments. And now I think they'll be more judicious. They're more careful in what they buy. So if we find out the products and services that they need and that society needs for them, this will go a long way in really being a true needs-based economy as opposed to a want-based economy. A want-based economy, if we produce things and create a want that in these difficult times is a luxury that we will not be as a society able to afford. And I don't know if we were ever able to afford, but more so now, we have to take that into account. So in the baby boomers, they're going to be needing lots of things. They're going to be needing medical services. They're going to be needing institutional services. They're going to be needing housing services. They're going to be needing social services. Barack Obama, our next president as of next week, is talked about the kinds of services he wants to make available. Well, it's easier to put the money into services than to have the people trained and the businesses to distribute those kinds of funds and do that kind of planning and to make those things happen. Okay. It's very easy to talk about a plan, perhaps not so, but it's much easier than to actually implement it. And this is just a little clue about the difference between an inventor and an entrepreneur. Inventor loves creating things for the sake of creation. Entrepreneur wants to bring it to the marketplace. One major difference. And the same thing is true about many of these programs we're going to see, not only from the governmental sector, from the private sector. They're going to have to meet the needs of the customers. We talked in marketing about marketing segments and so on. The baby boomers are a segment. They are a segment not only by age. They are a segment also with that. My research is based on what we call gerontographics, gerontological demographics, where it's not only about the age, it's also about shared experiences. They're very different baby boomer shopping behaviors among people who live on Maui than among people who live in south side of Chicago. Even though they could be the same age, they may have totally different needs. Let's just think of the most obvious. I mean, they don't need an overcoat in Kahului. Okay, that's one big difference. And the kind of services they're going to need, if you have to sit on the subway to go to a Medicaid clinic in Chicago, you may be sitting an hour and a half. Might be a different story if you're living in Wailuku or in Lahaina or in Waipahu. So let's keep in mind that's just the medical part. Then we have social services. Okay? Then we have how many of you have watched the ads for the electric mobile carts? I don't call them wheelchair, they're more mobile transporters, I think they call them. Okay. That's become a big business. Okay. the baby boomers has caused that business partially, but what else has caused that business? What else has caused the proliferation of this transporter?
That the lifespan of people is extending
Okay.
because of medical advances.
But we see younger and younger people using those carts. So what does that tell us?
Perhaps maybe on the whole, or in general, the younger population's health is deteriorating.
There we go. So health issues are not just geriatric. They're not just age related. They're not just experience related. They're sometimes behavior related. So I want to have the second category after baby boomers that can encompass a whole range of subcategories, health and medical products and services that may not be related to baby boomers, that are caused by other environmental factors. If you remember from marketing, we talked about the outside environment, okay, the macro environment that affects society's needs and wants. And one of those things is our poor diet choices. Okay? Poor diet choices. I mean, look how long it took for the schools to ban Coca-Cola machines from the schools. I mean, it's just incredible. It's taken almost 20 years. Is it just because the kids all lobbied against it? Do you think? Let me ask this young lady here. Hi, do you like Coca-Cola? Oh, good. You're a good girl. You don't like Coca-Cola. Okay. Good, good. Okay. So, obviously, it wasn't a lobbying by young children who wanted to keep the Coca-Cola machine there. Because, I mean, they may have liked the convenience. They may have liked the taste. But obviously, it was the pressure, first of all, the Coca-Cola machine, Coca-Cola company, and the distributors in the machine, and some of the school boards, and everybody who had an interest in keeping vending machine, whether it was the cheapest way of gratifying or serving children's needs or whatever reason it was. But that was just one small example of many things that happen in society, whether it was the advertising, whether it was the pace of life that created this fast culture where we need to have our needs immediately satisfied, and also pushed by advertising and motivated by culture and by what everybody else is doing and so on. Because the Coca-Cola culture, for instance, I don't want to pick on Coca-Cola because they're not alone. The whole fast food philosophy, the philosophy that started basically in the 60s, has proliferated. And it's not only big business, it's also the perhaps the television culture. It started out with the TV dinners. I remember when I first came to America, people were eating these TV dinners, and I was invited to dinner somewhere. I remember once I was a teenager, and I came to my friend's house, from high school, and his mother said, "Oh, we're really happy to have your little refugee," I guess they didn't understand that not everybody who came from outside the United States was a refugee. This was reserved for certain people who had lost their home. Anyway, they said, "We always like to have a refugee home for dinner." And then I thought it was, no, I didn't understand at that time enough English to really make the connection, but they said, anyway, we take refugees in all the time. And I said, but I didn't come to pick tomatoes or anything. So they said, no, it's okay, you're getting free dinner anyway. And they pulled out this aluminum tray that they had put, was it Swanson? Yeah, I think, John, I think you're right. I think it was Swanson or something. And they put it in the oven and they heat it up, and then they peeled off the... So that was my introduction to a dinner invitation. And then they turned on the TV because they didn't want to have to talk during dinner. It was embarrassing. So that was my introduction to American dinner invitation. But this was in the 60s, and so things have slightly altered. People don't even have a chance to watch television. They're probably working 2 jobs in Hawaii. And so television's out of the question. And they're eating at McDonald's or Pizza Hut, anyway, because time is of the essence. These things cropped up because, truth be told, America has some of the hardest working workforce in the world. They produce more, they're more efficient, and they work longer hours with less vacation. So obviously time is, we've always learned the adage, time is money, haven't we? Time is money. Time is money. Optimize, maximize. And one of the pleasures we thought we have in Hawaii is that we can kind of be a little laid back. But even that luxury is often taken away from us as we try to survive in fine economic terms and so on. Okay, so think about the issues that have resulted, cultural issues that have prompted, or external issues, environmental issues that have prompted certain needs, and how can we answer those needs with products or services. So obviously you're coming up with an electric cart that will help people who have obesity issues or mobility issues, and well, I think we got enough of those. We see the ads about 5 times every hour on most channels on cable TV. So that's out. But how can we think outside of the box? Now you're going to be hearing me talk a lot in this course about thinking out of the box. Thinking out of the box is often taking an unpopular stand because you've recognized something before anybody else. You've put 2 and 2 together and realized that it is 4. Or maybe sometimes it's 4.25, depending on weighting or indexing issues or external factors. So 2 and 2 is not always 4. Think out of the box. And I'm going to try to help you do it. And that's why we call this course Entrepreneurship Opportunity Recognition. Recognizing when the opportunity is there and being able to evaluate it. That's what our screening, for instance, that we'll be talking about is concerned with. It's not just having an opportunity. It's not just recognizing that you might have a solution. But can you evaluate it that's going to make business sense? Remember, at the end of the day, this is a business course. How do we take an opportunity, create a business, a product, or a service out of it that will bring us a return? Or if we're doing what's called social entrepreneurship, brings some kind of a social value. Okay? Because not just is entrepreneurship just about making money. It's sometimes about creating societal value. We won't go too much into in depth on this, but you must understand that social entrepreneurship about, for instance, there are people who do all the time volunteer work. That's what we call social entrepreneurship. There's some kind of industries that crop up to create value. When you create a food bank, for instance, a food bank is not out there to make money. But someone has thought up the idea, whether it's an organization or whether it's an individual, how to create a system where people who are hungry can be helped. And how do we do that? We have, just having the idea is not enough. How many good ideas? You pass someone on the street who's either panhandling, okay, or if you're in a major city like Chicago, New York, LA, you used to stop at a red light on the exit from the highway, and some guy would come and wash your window, spray some dirty water on your windshield, and hold out his hand. If you haven't had that, well, especially if you're in a sleazy neighborhood where everybody's walking around, with shivs, under their belt, a sort of Saturday night special in their pocket, and he hands out your hand, you give him a quarter. Especially if it's 11 o'clock at night and you by accident got off at the wrong part of town. But when you look at people, whether they're panhandlers, whether they're out in their luck living under an overpass, okay, or living on the beach or something, it's 2 reactions. One, typical reaction, we just kind of turn away and say, there, but for the grace of God go I, God. How could they live like this? 2, you think, why isn't someone doing something about this? Or 3, which is the only useful option, what can we do about this? Now, if you're thinking, what can we do about it, you're already thinking like an entrepreneur. Okay? What can we do about it? Not only social entrepreneurs, everybody who thinks about a problem or societal needs is thinking like an entrepreneur. What can I do about it? What can we do about it? So first you have to define what the societal need is. So, every time we talk about different topics, I'm trying to introduce a little new concept for you on the topics that I want you to do. So we talked about the baby boomer generation, their needs and for services and products. We talked about the medical and healthcare issues. I'll give you another thing in the medical and healthcare issues that you might want to consider. How many of you know what are general and acute hospitals? General acute hospitals, well, you have one on Maui. It's called Maui Memorial. You have in Queens and in Honolulu several general and acute hospitals. Queens happens to be also a university hospital. Every place we usually have an acute general hospital that handles emergency and also gives general care to the community. What happens if you're old, okay, and you have some chronic illness? You're over 65 and you're not going to get healthy. What are your options for care?
They have your sister.
You either have institutional or you can be taken care of at home. Okay? It's preferable that you get taken care of at home if you still have some mobility abilities, or if you have help at home or someone to help take care of you and so on. You can get outpatient services, or you can have visiting services by visiting nurse, visiting doctors, and so on. But if you need institutionalization, well, if you're seriously chronically ill, if you have had a stroke and you need rehab long-term beyond 90 days of Medicare and so on, you're going to need any more than 3 months institutionalization. You end up in a nursing home as well. Okay, now nursing home is again divided into levels of skilled, and we have intermediate, and then we have lower level, which is no longer medical, what we call assisted living, which is for healthy adults who need medication but can take care of themselves most of the time. But there's also senior, now here's you cross the line from healthcare into baby boomers. You have what we call senior community, CCRCs, what do they stand for? Community housing for the aging, like closed gated communities for over 55, over 65, and so on. And they benefit usually from having a nurse living there or in residence during the daytime, but they don't really get any medical service. So the question is, what happens quite often when people are on public assistance in terms of the medical programs such as Medicare and Medicaid, it is in the interest of the government to always try to get a lower level of care. Because if they're paying part of the bill, they don't want to pay for the most expensive. So the most expensive is hospital. So the first force is always the regulatory force to get you out of the hospital. Today, if you have a baby, anybody here had a baby? Nobody had a baby? You had a baby. How long did you spend in the hospital? You guys press the black button.
Okay.
Yes.
2.
2, right? In, out, no. It's like, driving window at McDonald's. Oh, 3 days? What? You want to move in there? You bring your family and everything? No. 3 days, wow. That used to be in the good old days, when you were born, you got to spend at least a week in the hospital. The baby kind of rested. I remember when I was born, oh man, 7 days, no expectations, just Google and smile, No more, no relationships with the nurses, nothing. Bingo, out. And the mother as well. The mother used to get lessons, on breastfeeding, taking care of your baby, changing the diaper. The father would come in, he'd just get a virtual simulation of diaper changing, just for general knowledge in emergencies. No more. Now they expect you to go to prenatal La Leche, La Mars, the whole thing. Just do this all in front. By the time you get to the hospital, you're an expert. Did your deep breathing, boom, natural childbirth out, and you're out of it. Services and products totally changed. When I was born, there were no such things anywhere in the world. La Leche, to learn to teach someone how to breastfeed. La Mas, to teach someone how to do natural childbirth. Ask your grandparents if they had to go to classes. Honey, I can't work in the sugarcane anymore. Listen, I think I'm having a baby. Okay, honey, take 15 minutes off. Finish. Okay, so everything moves, societal changes, move things. That creates an opportunity for new products and services. Among those changes, regulatory. You see, it's not just one thing. It's not just the finance. It's not just the cultural. It's not just the social, or political, or legal. Everything's right. The reason I'm giving you, again, a recoup of some of the marketing issues, because in this terrible financial crunch that we are facing, the most important word, and I want to tell you, you are so lucky that you're studying entrepreneurship at the same time, almost within a week of when Barack Obama is going to be president, facing the worst crisis in presidential history. Because the one word that may be either said or not said is entrepreneurship. Because as we saw, ladies and gentlemen, as we saw, what's good for General Motors ain't necessarily good for the rest of the country. Not only ain't necessarily good, it's not good. It's not good. Because we depend more than ever on the entrepreneurial workforce. I just came back from a conference where I presented a paper on the Paul Keller project from last summer on getting high school students to come into our program in entrepreneurship. And everybody was talking about that's what's going to save America. People like you and people who are going to become entrepreneurial and practice entrepreneurship and create new things. Because I don't have to tell you, the big jobs are gone. The big organization jobs are gone. You really have to figure out, what am I going to do? How am I going to create my own future? Okay? So again, going back, so we talked about baby boomers, we talked about healthcare. The next thing, educational products and services, if you want to do something in there. I'm giving you 4 fields which are going to be the only ones that will for sure survive these difficult times. I'm giving you the 4 ones. Now you heard it right here. So when you issue your coupons on your first stock issues, remember, Boritzer, Post Office Box 6012, Kahului, Hawaii 96733. The coupons, okay, and the dividends. So educational products and services. What does that mean? Well, you just have to look in your own college settings, whether you're at UH West Oahu, at Hilo, at Manoa, at MCC, at Wynwood Community College, Leewood, Hawaii Community College, Kauai. You will see the enrollments up. Why is that? Because the smartphones, and I have a lot of smart ones, because in the last 2 days over the weekend, I got 22 requests for overcapacity to get into my classes. This was not an accident. This was because people understand that during these critical times, if you can't find work, you better sharpen your skills, because the competition is tough. Okay, everybody's competing. But I'm telling you, even though you have to compete, make sure that you control your destiny. If you can, get yourself, develop an idea, and so on. Okay, so educational products and services, teaching products, educational products in certain industries. I just saw, for instance, a booth at this conference I went to, and they were an organization that's certifying physical fitness instructors. Anybody here go to a gym? Anyone? You're not going to make money off you. One person going to the gym. Has anybody ever belonged to a gym? 2? Okay. How many people are surfing here? 2. Okay, what an opportunity. You've got in this class 20 students, okay? Organize them into some kind of a physical fitness program. I'm not saying you should do that. This is just an idea. Here's an opportunity. Obviously, it's a no-brainer that people need to do some level of exercise. It's a no-brainer. You need it for your heart. You need it for your brain. Okay? And your heart runs your circular system. You need your hormonal system, your spiritual system. Everything else works together. So educating people in physical fitness. How do you do it? People are so scared. They always think, oh, I got to lift those 180-pound barbells. No, you don't. Anybody here weigh over 100 pounds?
Yes.
I know some of you are lying if you didn't raise your hand here. Everybody's all, oh, no, I'm sorry, my dear. How much do you weigh?
2 bags of the weight.
2 bags of rice. Okay, my youngest student here weighs 2 bags of rice. This is good. Okay. So, one of the things is that since you carry at least 100 pounds of weight, you can just put a bar across your door, screw it in, and just lift yourself up. Bingo. You don't need barbells. You know, I sometimes really enjoy the proliferation of physical fitness equipment we see on almost every commercial on cable TV. There are machines that strengthen your ear muscle. Now, I don't know what is this for. I guess those who are, how you say that, disadvantaged, are orally disadvantaged, you know, because their cell phone is hitting their ear against the brain or something. So you have to exercise the earlobe. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm sure there's going to be a machine for that pretty soon because there's a, yes?
Went over to a friend's house last night and they were doing Wii Fitness, the Wii Nintendo.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was in another world. I'm sorry. I should have focused on that. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought there was kind of cool. They have like a Wii Fitness and a Wii Yoga and stuff like that. And so now people are exercising on the video games.
I think that's great. I don't think, you know, the truth of the matter is, but this is only my personal perception. I don't think you need a lot of equipment. I don't think you need almost any equipment. Okay. I saw when I lived in Singapore, I saw people doing Tai Chi right outside my window in the apartment where I lived, and like every morning were like these 20 older Chinese people, you know, all doing Tai Chi exercise. It was like a beautiful dance. I got up at like at 6:30 in the morning. I look at it, and then they were all, you know, and moving in rhythm. They were doing this for an hour 15 minutes. I mean, what a tremendous exercise, you know, circulation, everything. But again, they had a leader and they were, you know, doing the thing. So services, especially in physical fitness, I think services are very critical when you're talking about health and education and so on. Again, you see, everything kind of is integrated. There's no such thing that stands alone. So if we talk about education, well, you can tie it into several areas, wherever you want to. Courses, you can create courses for the continuing ed, for the workforce development. Even though you're all students at this point, that's one of your roles, a lot of you have information, knowledge, and experience. There are many things that you could teach and create a little business. A teaching institution can be one person. I remember when I went to graduate school, I used to offer SAT training for the SAT exam for kids in high school. I had a growing business. Every Saturday, I had 25 kids, each one paying $10 a session. Well, for graduate students making $250 a week, this was not bad, 4 hours on a Saturday. You know? When you figure for each student, it was $2.50 an hour for 4 hours. You know, but for me, 25 students, hey, that got me through. So, creativity, recognizing a need, thinking what your skills are, and you're slowly bringing in the components that's necessary to create the implementation after you have evaluated the opportunity. Okay? So, recognition of an opportunity, okay, and evaluating it and implementing it. There's no use. Now, most of you are between the ages of, I would say, 20 and 32, 35. There's no use sitting in your wheelchair at 45. I'm sorry, at your rocking chair. Maybe at the dinner table or wherever you sit. And thinking, wow, you know, you see one of your friends. Look at all the money he's making, you know. Look at this, look at that. Look how he's enjoying life. I could have done it. I had that idea. But life is not about what you could have, should have. It's about what you do. And here I'll tell you another big secret that no one tells you. Is entrepreneurship risk-free? No. Everything I tell you to do has a risk. Everything costs. doesn't necessarily cost in money, but it costs in terms of lost other opportunities, okay, and in loss of time. Now, money you can make back, time you can't get back. But that's your investment. The risk is part of the investment. If everything was risk-free, everybody would be a millionaire. No one would take any risk. And when I talk about risk, just as an aside again, let me mention, as bad as I feel for many of the investors, and most of you know about the Bernard Madoff Ponzi scheme with the loss of 50 billion, okay? I feel bad for many of the investors. But again, someone didn't do their homework. If I was going to invest $7 billion in someone, I'd be following that pretty good. And one of the other things, as an ex-police officer, let me tell you, I often told people who I would be called to write a report after they had been hit by a con artist or con game. You know, they couldn't figure out. I said, didn't your mother ever tell you if it's too good to be true, it's not true? It can't be. And when someone offers you 25% consistent result on your money, you don't have to be a Paul Krugman Nobel Prize laureate in economics. You don't have to be Rafi Boritzer. You can be anybody without any economic understanding. But no, if you've lived more than 5 years on the planet, I can ask your daughter as well, you know that if the average return in every place in the world is about 10 to 12%, and you're getting a guy who's giving you 25%, 15, 20 years in a row, there's something wrong with this picture, or something that certainly that's worth investigating. So again, every good con is based on the desire of the people to want to believe, not necessarily because they really believe it. They want to believe that it's true, that you can get something from nothing. So while I feel bad, the aspect of the investing, and every investment, even in yourself, has a risk. So remember the risk factor. We're going to talk more about risk as well. That brings us to our third type of services that you can invest in. I'm sorry, not investing. Develop for your, invest your time, but develop for your, the fourth kind of, and that's sustainable energy. Now, I've said that in this melting economic structure, we have baby boomers, we have healthcare, education service, and the fourth pillar of this house is going to be sustainable energy. How many of you listened to the news this morning? Anybody here listen to the news? Okay. The news this morning was that gas prices are going up. And everybody said, sure, hey, I don't care, man. You know, we were here when it was $4.85 in Puanene Avenue in Kahului. So what? So it's now $2.35 or $2.55, whatever. Well, ladies and gentlemen, maybe that's the good news. The bad news is, as long as the recession continues, it'll stay low because of low production, not because of the low price of oil. It's because no one is buying, so the market goes down. But if you want the economy to improve, the minute it uptick, just as it did in the last 2 weeks, it's slowly going up. It's never going to be $2 a barrel. It's already hovering between 30 and 40. And probably the true price in the next 24 months is going to be about 70. So get those Hummers out of your head. It's never coming back. That's a dinosaur. If you believe in Brontosaurus Rex, buy a Hummer. But remember what happened to the dinosaurs? The big comet from the sky? The big comet from the financial markets could just as well dazzle that as well. So, sustainable energy. We are going to find different ways. We see a lot of talk about electric energy. And why do we see talk about electric energy? Why is that the solution for cars and everything else? Why are we talking about electric energy from windmills, from tidal wave power, from solar panels, from nuclear reactors? Yes, okay.
So it'll lessen our dependency on oil and gas.
Right. But why electric energy? Why don't we each have like a little steam plant and just take firewood? Go up to Poly Forest and bring a couple of blocks of wood. Yes, sir.
Because with the the electrical energy production, it's not using as much natural resources, and also they look at the pollution considerations as well.
Right, we're trying to solve several problems at the same time. One of our problems is global warming. The CO2 gas, the CO gas that we put into the atmosphere from burning fossil fuels, which is wood, coal, and hydrocarbons like petroleum, is going to kill us eventually. Not only does it create climate change, it's also choking our air supply. And various other things. As you said, if you go to LA, wake up on a nice cheery sunny morning, by 10 o'clock it's kind of a yellow sun. You say, wow, look at that. Interesting, you know, as you put on your air conditioner and you go up in your Hummer, I'm sorry, maybe the Escancade, no, what do they call those Cadillacs? Escalades? Escalade, oh, it's wonderful name. I thought it was an escalator for the long time. I said, why would they name a car Escalator? You know, like, take me away from here, you know? But, again, so if you can concentrate energy and distribute it in a meaningful way, and what's been the problem with distributing electrical energy? Storing it, right. So the reason we haven't been able to use electrical energy, except in very few cases like golf carts, is the fact that, first of all, any way of storage requires batteries, and they've been very heavy. So that limited their use for airplanes. The amount of storage that they could handle limited their use for long flights and so on. But now things are changing. Our whole nanotechnology allowed controls that are very, very cheap. The idea of lithium-ion batteries, alkaline batteries, were the first forerunners of a whole new generation of storage. So the storage will make it possible. There's also new technology for distributing power. They're talking about distributing power wirelessly in some ways, low-level powers, you know, in terms of DC and so on, being able to distribute energy without electrical, which is really a very, it's a, you know, a very unique concept. But all these areas will lead to all types of opportunities. One of the reasons it's really surprising in Hawaii is that we don't make more use of the wind resources and solar resources and water resources we have, and volcanic resources. It's just amazing. Every kind of energy except nuclear that's possible to have, we have. So ask yourself the question. I don't want to get into any political fights here, but ask yourself the question, why is it that we are not totally energy self-sufficient? And I tell you, just from obviously I can't do research and everything, and I haven't done research into this, but my belief is that we could be totally energy self-sufficient. We may not be self-sufficient in a lot of industrial products because we produce really no industrial products whatsoever. But certainly I think when it comes to foodstuffs and to energy, those are two areas where we could be solving it. We can't, obviously, we can't sell that outside of our own use. It's very hard at this point to imagine how you could sell energy out of it. And so we'll be talking about that as well. Everything about those four categories that I've talked to, there are two things you want to talk about. One is, are you going to create a business that's going to be to satisfy local needs? And when I talk about local needs, I'm talking about within the island you live in or within the state. Because we are a unique geographical area in America. In many ways, we are similar to other islands in the Caribbean, such as Puerto Rico, such as Jamaica, and such as Hispaniola, where Dominican Republic and Haiti reside. Whatever we produce, either we produce for our own consumption or we can share with the world. Now, if we are not industrial, there are very big limitations on what we can do. We can offer services, or we can act as middlemen, again as services. How can we do that in Hawaii? Obviously, it was difficult to do before. We could have used the telephone and faxes and other forms of communications and done brokerage, whether it was real estate, whether it was financial, whether it was technology and so on. It's become even simpler than that with the internet and the worldwide network. We can now offer services anywhere. We can sell things anywhere. We can have markets anywhere. And we can act as brokers for anybody, no less than if you live in New York, than if you live in California, or if you live in London. You can do it right out of here. So in any of those categories I described, you might want to think, aside from fulfilling the needs of your own community in the state of Hawaii, on the island that you live in, you might want to think of offering global services using digital technology. Now, that doesn't mean you can't manufacture things like DVDs or other forms of information, package them, distribute them, and so on. Part of the ABIT program, this is one of the premier courses in the ABIT program, is that we combine digital technology with our entrepreneurial thinking. Because I can't think of one service or product that I've come across in the last, I'd say, 5-10 years that doesn't today use digital technology in some aspect, either of its planning, production, development, or marketing and distribution. Okay? So, obviously you might want to think in those terms when you come up with your idea. I would suggest that if you can, as you get ready to form your group and think about your product, being a group of two, each one, each team, you get together physically and discuss this and chew it out, brainstorm as much as possible. Okay. So are there any questions on the business plan? Anybody have any question? Okay. And then there will be, let me just make sure that I covered all the requirements. There are a few case analysis, and just simply to sharpen your skills, those are the written homework assignments. As you see, the course has case analysis and the discussion board 40% of the course, quiz is 15% of the course, and the business plan 45% of the course. There are normally no requirements for appearing in the class for exams, since the exams and quizzes are all online. There is a requirement one day during the semester in presenting the cases, your business plans, for all the teams to be here. It's one day of this course, okay, that we all meet at the end of the semester for the presentations of the business plan. Any questions about that? So, okay, let us begin. If there are no further questions, I want to talk a little bit before we close for today about the nature and the development of entrepreneurship and where it all started. And the term entrepreneur itself is from what language? What language do you think is the term entrepreneurship?
French.
French, okay. It means between taker, go-between, okay? And the earliest periods of entrepreneur, we see it starting out in the era of Marco Polo. Who was Marco Polo? Anybody remember? It's not a children's game in America, as you know.
Didn't he visit the Mongol Empire?
Right. Where did he start out from? Well, I visited his house, actually, where he was born. He was born in a small island village off the Serbian coast, Croatian coast, actually. And he was Italian, but his parents migrated along the Adriatic coast. And he went all across looking for all kinds of goodies. And I believe he was the one who brought back spaghetti from China and made it an Italian dish. I don't know who created pizza, but it wasn't him. And the idea between a merchant and entrepreneur really wasn't well defined early on. He was a, adventurer, and he tried to be a broker, what we call a merchant. And the earliest example actually of entrepreneurship and globalization together, looking for new markets. Again, risk taker. Another risk taker we would know was probably later on was Christopher Columbus. And how did they make money? Well, someone had to back those trips. Okay, just like today we go for an IPO, an initial public offering, when we have a good company going, we want stock market support of our venture. And so he had a backer, and the merchant himself took the risk and went traveling either by ship and when Marco Polo also went by camel and horseback and a few other ways. And when he made some money on what he brought back, and said, what else did Marco Polo bring back to Europe? What were the early traders all interested in? What did Europe lack? How many of you have had English food? Anybody ever try English food? Did you? No, you don't? Well, English food is very boring, you know, like kidney pie. Oh. Did you ever have, John? Yeah, it's disgusting. I don't know how those English ever raise kids. I mean, I thought they'd all starve from malnutrition by now, but so they were also interested in spices. Spices, especially the Chinese and the Southeast Asians and the Indians were all using spices. Chili things, you know, I mean, until today the English really never took to it, but the Italians kind of liked it, and the whole Ottoman Empire was able to develop it, especially when they conquered the Middle East and so on. So that's what happened. Then we have later on the Middle Ages, they used entrepreneurs to manage large production projects when they needed someone to set up, whether it was a quarry, whether it was a market in a particular place. And they asked people who managed, who were considered entrepreneurs, they didn't make any money or take any risk. They were just paid salaries. And this was unusual. This was a first different concept of the entrepreneur. He became sort of a manager, sort of a consultant manager. And he was paid for his project and given the resources to do it. And usually, who would you trust to do this? Well, what kind of profession would you trust in those days? Remember, you had tradesmen, you had these merchants. There were two other classes of people in ancient civilization. Royalty, and who else was hanging around? The church, yes. Why would you trust the church? Because they had a direct line to God, or what? What did they know that people didn't know? They knew how to read and write. They knew how to read and write. They knew how to write, hey, I owe you. I will do this. You know, they could write things, you know. This was very important. The literate people, well, they usually had some kind of religious education. Okay. By the 17th century, the entrepreneur was a person who entered into a contract with the government to perform a service. Governments were able to run a lot of things. They had armies, so they had a lot of control. They had ships, they had resources, they had people, and they could make you do what? What could governments make you do when they had a lot of people? For the first time, we have a concept called taxation. You know, for everybody. So they could collect money. How many? Don't you guys watch Robin Hood as kids? Didn't you watch Robin Hood, the movie? What happened? I don't know. Okay, in Robin Hood, the movie, you have the sheriff. He collects the taxes. They can enforce. He comes to all those guys with steel jackets and everything. You know, they look really. They look like basically the Crips and the Skulls. You know, all carrying a little sheath, black belts and so on. Okay. Then the 18th century, the entrepreneur becomes different. He becomes more like an inventor. And we see the first entrepreneurs like Eli Whitney. What did Eli Whitney invent? History, American history, anybody?
Spinning gin.
The gin?
The cotton gin?
The cotton gin. What was the cotton gin? Is that a drink? Did that come before the Mai Tai or what? What was the cotton gin? What was it designed to do?
In thread, right? Cotton spin.
No.
Get the seeds and junk out of the cotton.
Separate the seeds from the cotton. Because, and what change did that make? What was that taking advantage of? What was that taking
moving to
advantage?
automation for manual labor.
Yes, what did that affect? What was that? What effect in history affected that? What other thing? Who would it, guys? Obama, Lincoln, slavery, right? Hallelujah, baby, hallelujah. Okay. Go down, Moses, way down here. Okay, never mind. Okay. And then we have Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison. What did he invent? A light bulb. Bingo. Okay. But they also tried to make a go of it and sell it and so on. But they were unable to get the financing. Again, the entrepreneur, more an inventor. But later on they realized that they needed providers. So finally Whitney used money from the British Crown, and Edison got private sources to help him with the light bulb. So what it does, we see the transformation from an inventor to an entrepreneur who also has to worry about getting money. And we'll be talking about how that concept developed and where do we get money today when we start a new venture. Where do we start off? What do I always tell you? You're going to start a new business, where are you going to start off? Don't come to me for money, okay? This must be a popular course. I see 50 people trying to get in at the end. They must have been giving the second tier tickets. Okay. So when you're looking for money, the seed money to start, where do you go, Thomas?
Think.
No, stay away from the bank. Don't you know that's where we lost all the money? Yes.
Investors.
No, Katie. Where do you go, Tom? Who have you been living with the last 20 years?
Parents.
Parents, that's where you start. You want to go to strangers? They'll be insulted, your parents and your family, if you don't ask them for money. Why would you want to break a habit that you got used to? They won't give you anymore. Well, no, you got to keep going from that old place. Learn the old bad habits. Go back where you started from. Go back to your parents, your friends, your relatives. But let me caution you. It's very different this time around. Your parents are going to be the most uncritical and yet the most critical. Also, you don't want guilt. Not everybody is Catholic or Jewish born with guilt. So you don't want to create a new learning experience in guilt. Okay? You don't want to create a new learning experience in guilt. So if you don't have guilt yet, you don't want to create a new one. That means that when you go to your parents or relatives or friends for money to help with your business, make sure that act to them as if they are the totally critical outside funding agency. Your whole life depends on it, and you got to give them all the information. Okay, you might got to make this a totally distance relationship when you're asking your parents or relatives or friends for money to put seed money into you. Okay, give them the facts. Be unbiased. Share with them every potential risk. Don't take anything for granted. And I want to tell you, this is probably the first most critical financing decision you're going to make. They will respect you for it. And suppose you have to go to the watering hole once again. You want to make sure that you go without guilt because you haven't screwed anybody. And make sure that you haven't misstated the facts of your business plan or what you're going to achieve. It is better to minimize your expectations and surprise all the investors down the line, from the first initial investors all the way to the last holders of shares in your corporation. Surprise them. Have understated earnings, surprise them with bigger results. Until next time, from the Millionaire Circle in Kahului, Rafi Boritzer, BUS 320.